Hey guys, Jackdaw here. Today I am very delighted to finally reveal my first community-led video spotlighting many of the fandom's opinions and ideas on the next Dragon Age. In April, I created my own top 10 list of very broad things I'd like to see in the next Dragon Age. Following that video up, I asked the community to give me one thing that could be very broad that they would like to see in the next Dragon Age as a sequel to that video, and oh my goodness, you guys didn't disappoint with the amazing ideas. Initially, I was only going to do a top 30 list, but after seeing so many amazing ideas from many of you, I had to extend that list to 60. So here I am with an even bigger, comprehensive list of many things you want to see in the next Dragon Age. We've got 5 main categories that I've managed to round each of the community's ideas down to. They are the next hero, the story, the gameplay, the romance, and the combat. If you are not featured in this video, don't worry about it. Watch till the end for the next topic I'd like you to send ideas in for, and you might just be spotlighted in that future video. Anyhow, let's kick this off with your ideas on the next hero. Solas Valerius said, if there's something I hope to see in the upcoming Dragon Age, it would have to be a deeper, richer background stories for the protagonist. In Dragon Age Origins, when you chose your race, there were different origins that gave your character more of a personalized feel. Each person playing and the way they played, actions and dialogue chosen, made it feel like a truly unique experience. In Inquisition, we all started as being pulled from the Fade, and although that made sense for the time, it left the background of the Inquisitor lacking, as we only got to hear about their lives before the Inquisition through passing conversations with different characters. Tyler Frickle said, I'd like a protagonist that knows their people's history and lore, meaning a Dalish elf that knows all about the elven gods and the history of the Dalish rather than not. Looking at you, Llewellyn. A dwarf from Orzammar or Kalsharok that can tell someone the history and culture of the dwarves. A Qunari who knows about the Qun and how it works. Looking at you, Adar. A human noble that can tell you all about the other nobles. A human commoner that can tell you about how being poor affects them and only knowing about the world they grew up around. A city elf that has evident disdain for humans and can tell you about the culture of city elves and elves that are slaves and exactly how hard their lives are. Corvus Jackson said, being able to have a trans, non-binary protagonist would be the world. Like in character customization, instead of a gender slider, there's a slider for pronouns and a separate body slider, /sliders. Also, more LGBTQIA+ companions /NPCs. Krem was a good start in Inquisition and I want more. Elizabeth Cole said, something I would really like to see is a more customizable appearance for our protagonist this time around. The protagonist should have different hairstyles and clothes depending on the missions we're going on, versus what they wear during casual or romantic events. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't have my hair down during combat, just like I wouldn't have it up in the same braid, ponytail or bun all the time. Giving us different options for how our characters look going into different situations would make the next game even more immersive. Jar Jar Binks, straight from Star Wars himself, said, I'd like to have character origins and have those origins really matter in the story. For example, it was pretty weird for a Dalish elf inquisitor to not know anything about the Temple of Mafal and have Morrigan explain it to them. I absolutely agree to that sentiment, Jar Jar, 100%. Miss Maya and co said, my big thing is if we play as a Qunari, I would like it if the horns and hair options were separate. This is huge and I 100% agree. Colin Booth said, having real-time hair and beard growth like in Red Dead 2 would be pretty cool to have. Marshall said, I would like the next protagonist to be involuntarily dragged into the narrative and want nothing to do with what is going on at first. However, they find their own reasons to care and be involved in stopping the Dread Wolf. It gives the next protagonist some character depth as well as personal stakes in the overall narrative of the game. Hero of Kvatch from Cyrodiil said, I've always, since the end of Inquisition, envisioned the next main character collaborating with the Inquisitor, but disagreeing with him/her regarding Solas if the Inquisitor swore to redeem him. The new MC doesn't care for Solas and just wishes to stop the world from ending. In a pivotal moment, if the Inquisitor swore to redeem his/her friend or lover, the MC would witness the Inquisitor being brought into Mafal's service and being influenced by the directive to end the world. The Inquisitor would become a threat thrall in a shocking, heartbreaking moment, and if he/she was friends with Solas, Solas would be affected by suddenly seeing his friend/lover in such a way, it would make Solas pause, and that pause would be enough for the MC to strike. Or something like this. We've got to have an emotionally wrenching moment of closure between the Inquisitor and Solas for sure. I 100% agree. Zolotaiko Anastasia said, I would like the developers to focus more on the main character. What I mean here is that I was utterly annoyed when I had to ask all the companions a gazillion questions in order to get their approval when practically none of them was interested in my hero. Only Cassandra once tried to ask a question, but in vain. This felt unnatural as everyone demanded different stuff to be accomplished and made zero efforts to get close to you. I believe this would change the perception of the game. Otherwise, it feels so common in all Bioware games. Okay, talk to him/her, do his/her mission, become friends. I feel like this line could be changed. Fusselcon said, how about generally more body modification options? Tattoos, musculature, scars, height, the lot, you know? Makes no bloody sense that everyone of the same race is the same height and has roughly the same body shape. As a fighter, you should naturally have more muscles than some random peasant in an inn. DeGlenny said, the only thing I would add is a different kind of protagonist that differs greatly from the Inquisitor. Since Inquisition was a story about a regular person rising to power and becoming the head of one of the most powerful factions of Thedas, a new game focusing more on the underclass, the injustices of society, the anti-establishment with a new hero that gets to act as a revolutionary would be great. I think that Tevinter offers a great setting for these types of stories. Personally, I would like some subplots involving some kind of slave rebellion that we could influence somehow. Next up, and just as important, we've got your ideas on the story of Dragon Age 4. Quintes said, if the game is rated mature, I want a game that reflects that with grit in spades. Morally grey decision making with gut-wrenching consequences. During exploration, I'd like to have companions comment on things when it reminds them of something in their past. Silly stuff like, my grandmother had a vase like that. It broke when I tried to levitate it. Who knew it had Aunt Hadri's ashes in it? Chai T said, one thing I want in the next Dragon Age is to genuinely be defeated at some point in the story. Not just in the very beginning, but somewhere deep enough in the story where it's gut-wrenching. Constantly coming out on top gets old. I'd like an Infinity War style defeat where Solas wins at some point and we have to truly beat the odds to kill him. Cosmic DNA said, I would love to see lots of exploration of the politics and culture of Tevinter, and really any other places we might visit. Inquisition set up such an enormous amount of interest into the workings of Tevinter politics and the Magisterium. In Dorian's words, we are laden with history and culture. Tevinter is where Thedas truly began. We treasure our past and preserve it. You can walk down a side street and find nothing built during the modern ages, and despite appearances, we care deeply about everything. We have no reserve, not in war and not in love. We have learnt a lot about Ferelden and seen heaps about its ruling class, and in a way, as the Inquisitor, even became part of it. Now that we are going to a completely new part of the world with new people and cultures, I would love to explore their society and culture. With the Trespasser DLC setting up Dorian's new position in the Magisterium and his small following of fellow-minded individuals, there are some interesting story roads to follow, especially thinking about how being part of each of these different factions could influence and interact with what could be a politically and cultural time of change within Tevinter. And if our characters start as a nobody, we could get to explore the world from a different social perspective that we really haven't been able to in the other games. I think taking their time to introduce us to this new area of the world sets up so many possibilities for them to introduce new characters and get us to care about the people of Tevinter. And along the similar idea of having a compelling antagonist when we care about the people and culture, the writers get the perfect opportunities to give us a really powerful antagonist that could potentially affect the hero in different ways depending on what faction/background they are from. Hannah Hamori said, my wish is for more dwarves, more dwarven lore, romanceable dwarves, and if you want more specific, learn what became of Valta. I think this is a long shot though, as there aren't any specific dwarven tags in Northern Thedas, but who knows. Pandemic Human Sacrifice said, since we're going to deal with different factions, the Executors, Lords of Fortune, Antivan Crows, Cunari, etc., or at least different areas, Tevinter, Ravane, Anderfels, and Tiva, I would like to see fleshed out characters in all of them. The kind of characters that'll clearly articulate the reasons why they're joining to fight against Dreadwolf, as well as Dreadwolf followers articulating theirs. What Solas wants to do is undeniably polarizing, and even if I am biased, I want to see more than one point of view. I don't want to see a protagonist side side versus antagonist side, but rather a full range of grey, if that makes sense. That makes 100% sense, and I absolutely agree to that sentiment. Dreadwolf Ate My Ass said, I want Solas to look super hot in his new get-ups. Christine Herman said, I want cameos. I feel like it would be amazing to see the results of our earlier choices made corporal in some voice acted parts from earlier series. Fenris, Zevran, Dorian, etc. I want to run into Antivans and Vince we know or might know. A new protagonist might have an entirely new view of the cameo character, it ties the world together, and it would be beyond cool. Leonard Malsh said, I sincerely wish that the Inquisitor isn't going to be some NPC, but a player character. What I mean by that is simply that in a dialogue with Solas, for example, you should have the ability to decide what they say, considering how complex of a character the Inquisitor can become in Inquisition. This is what I hope. What I dream is that you can have at least one mission with all 4 protagonists in your party, ending with an epic Avengers-style fighting cutscene. To quote Iron Bull, it could happen, it won't, but it could. ML said, I'd really like to see Felison return. I think him being around would give us insight into a different side of Solas, and it'd also be a chance to learn more about Ancient Elves' relationships with the Fade and Spirits. Plus, he'd make an amazing ally. Mr. Reading Far Too Much said, a greater commitment to customization of the big hub/home zone. In Dragon Age Awakening, Inquisition and Mass Effect 2, you had access to some measure of customization to your castle, and in Awakening, it even affected your final outcome. But if we aren't going to be massive, bold movers and shakers in the world, I would prefer my own fully customizable small space, like an apartment in Memraphis. Not just an area that I can choose to get new fish or a planter, I'd like to go all in wall, paints, paper, bed frames, couches, desks, vaults, just a domestic space that can have access to a bunch of assets already being used everywhere else in the game, as a form of self-expression on top of the character creation and class building. Dat Boy Sean said, y'all forgot about the hero of Ferelden. We need a closure to their story. There are still 2 blights left. It would make sense to bring back the hero of Ferelden or the Orlesian Warden in Awakening for people whose wardens died. Abhishek Das said, if Bioware turns Solas into a completely evil character, then I will be very disappointed. Solas is a spirit of wisdom. If Mythal's vengeance completely alters Solas' nature, then that would be a very sad outcome. I hope Bioware gives the new protagonist/the Inquisitor a chance to persuade Solas. Following that, we've got some of your ideas on the overall gameplay of Dragon Age 4. Aquaswan said, I'd like the opportunity to explore Memraphis in a semi-open world way, Grand Theft Auto but with Kirkwall area transitions for performance reasons. We spent a lot of time in the wilderness in the past games, so I think that a bustling magic city in all of its glory would be fun, maybe even a hub. Cyan Wool said, I want the devs to be as creative as possible with the locations we are visiting, especially places like the Grand Necropolis and the Arlafan Forest. We know from Tevinter Nights and the Ruins of Reality Short Story that these places are very unique, and I hope that this uniqueness is translated into gameplay. Kara said, I want to explore engaging places, shops where you can buy not only weapons and armor, but clothes, accessories, etc. And I want to have my own home. I want to dive deep into the culture of the place, see the everyday life of NPCs, and hear more diegetic music and sounds, bards playing in taverns, see theatres, do maybe a heist on a party. Lisa Serena said, as I'm playing through Dragon Age Origins again, I remembered that when travelling somewhere, you have random encounters that can either be random battles or something related to a quest or a companion quest. I thought those were always interesting because they're random and you don't expect them. It's something I'd like to see in Dragon Age 4, assuming we'll be travelling to other places. Pink Jewel said, I would definitely want Dragon Age 4 to have some kind of parkour mechanic. I mean, think about it. We're going to have crows with us who most likely know how to scale buildings in silence to get the drop on people, to get somewhere quick or as an escape. Andrea said, I would like to see 1. The return of griffins to Thedas, and maybe the possibility of them flying around, and 2. The ability to name save games and no limit on the number of save games. Alex Cower 36 said, playable Wicked Grace. Asa 2075 said, I personally want an opportunity to explore a pre-Veil Elvenan and Fade in the form it was back then, to see all of those scenes that were described in the Codex entries from the Via de Fara. Ghost said, I want to see more unique armor and weapons. Inquisition had far too little of that, as most armor and weapons looked pretty much the same, just with a different armor rating or weapon DPS. I'd walk around the world and see the NPCs and be like, damn, why is a background character better dressed than the main character/hero? So yeah, that needs to be a thing, lol. Ascentoni said, it's probably impossible, I know, but it'd be really neat to have a day/night cycle with dynamic weather, quests that could only be done at certain times of day/night, and tasks that could be handled differently depending on the weather, kind of like multiple ways to accomplish a goal. Pedro Henrique said, one thing I would like to see in DF4 is maps that are more reactive. Different enemies depending on your choices, different characters to talk to depending on your dialogues, new areas of the map depending on how you behave in certain places. Like a villager letting you explore his or her mine if he likes you. That's an idea I would love to see, not an open map that doesn't change. Papa Daydream said, a photo mode. Everyone's ideas below are already exciting and of incredible variety, but I haven't seen much mention of capturing the stellar locations and visuals with use of the photo mode. I'd enjoy it very much to appreciate the artistry and design of characters and locations. Next up, we have your ideas on romance for the next Dragon Age. Bowie said it would be a really neat design to have your main protag interact more with your love interest, like the system they used in Mass Effect 2 where you could call up your companions to hang out and snuggle. I did it endlessly, no shame, when I romanced Fane. I realised that it did implement it into Dragon Age Inquisition with other love interests, like asking Cullen or the Iron Bull, etc. for kisses, but sometimes I want little grazes, looking out at the horizon/scenery together, and hugs y'all. I would just die for more intimacy. Also, it makes for good screen archery. 100% agree. Owl W said, I just want to be able to see the friendship levels again and have the opportunity to collect gifts for the companions. Ogrin from Ozma himself said, two things, dwarven women. Modern Chemist said, one thing I would love to see in DF4 is dancing, just like in Mass Effect. You know what I'm talking about. Hashtag the Shepherd Shuffle. Alfonso Campos said, I want rivalry back. I want to be able to be at odds and disagree with the companions that just wouldn't be friends with my PC without feeling like I'm missing game content. There should be as much content for rivalry as there is for friendship, and you shouldn't be locked out of companion character progression just because you two didn't get along. Ideally, the companion progresses differently based on how you treat them and the decisions you've made. Lucy Lane said, I'd like the companions to initiate flirting with the player sometimes, and then the player can ignore, reciprocate, or reject. I'm tired of initiating all the romance. Agreed. Tomasrin said, can I get a Qunari wife? CO Wanderer said, definitely more conversational options with love interest. I don't know how many times I'd go running to my LI after a mission to see if they had anything new to say. I'd love to have random and fresh LI content more frequently. Cute LI content outside of the main hub. If you're traveling with your LI, you should be able to have cute moments while out and about, whether it be banter or a short scene. Or like if you're exploring some mystic cave and your love interest pulls you aside and gives you a kiss. Kawaii Princess said, one thing I would love is for romance to be more spaced out throughout the game itself, having romance scenes that are triggered due to storyline events and not just a personal quest. In Origins and most of Inquisition, once you get to a certain point, you can pretty much max out all of the romance dialogue/scenes. For example, in Inquisition, once you get Skyhold, you could blaze through Dorian's romance without continuing the main plot and then nothing. You would get one single scene after every big storyline, but the romance itself was pretty much done. Solas and Cullen, maybe due to being implemented late, instead seem to have romance triggers related to the main storyline, which really helps, in my opinion, really flush out their romance through the main story. Dragon Age 2's approach to the romance and how they had broken it up between each act also helped flesh out the romance and made them feel more long-standing. As well as this, I personally would love for the return of a more fleshed out jealousy system, both between partners and in the banter system between love interests. Chloe's Dragons said, I just want the continuation of companions having their own life and love story, like Josephine and Blackwalls, or Fenris and Isabella. I would love other characters to get into relationships and there be rival romance scenes. Also, an enemies to lovers romance would be LIT. Damien Matthews said, Varric, romance. Arana said, if there isn't an option for a romanced Solas to be dragged home by a pissed Llewellyn, I am rioting. And finally, we've got your ideas on the overall combat of Dragon Age 4. Meredith Polished My Idol said, is it time to add new character classes or just more dynamic subclasses? Also yes, Arcane Warriors should definitely make a return. Mr. Teneguayafis said, dwarf specific specializations to compensate for not being able to be mages, something taking advantage of their natural lyrium resistance. Wendigo Games said, I'd love the ability to play instruments like Ziffer in Inquisition's multiplayer. Bobo said, I would love to see hybrid classes like Dragon's Dogma. 1000 Miles Across Alluvian said, bring back potential spell combination effects from Dragon Age Origins, not just the shatter effects from hitting a frozen target. Megan said, I'd love it if they brought back Staff Blades too and let mages use them for melee combat. It's so nice in Dragon Age 2 that archer rogues would use a dagger when enemies got close. So basically, this want is to let ranged characters also have one melee auto attack. Bianca said, I feel like it's important to bring back up the tactics mode because it makes all the difference for disabled players like myself. Some of us just don't have the hand dexterity to properly key smash non-stop during combat, but we still want the excitement of full-blown combat, and tactical mode allows us to balance between the two. BioWare have won Accessibility in Gaming Awards thanks to the tactical mode and other accommodations that they have in their games. So getting rid of that would feel a lot like deciding that they don't care about the disabled players. I'm just pointing this out because I know a lot of abled folks don't realize how much of a difference tactical gameplay can make for disabled players. An incredibly valid point, thank you so much for bringing that to the surface, Bianca. That has completely changed my perspective on tactics, and I agree it should certainly return in the future. Goodso1 said, this sounds weird, but I think it'd be really cool if you or one of your companions could use a gunpowder weapon, even just an ability on cooldown. It makes sense because Iron Bull was originally supposed to have a prosthetic arm cannon, and considering that we'll be getting up and close with the Antam, it's not out of the question that we could gain access to some kinds of firearms. It doesn't have to be a musket or anything, just a primitive hand cannon like those invented in the late Middle Ages. In general, I hope that BioWare brings back the Artificer specialization because I thought the idea of playing as a technology-focused rogue was very cool. Nagram said, adding to the gameplay aspect, I think certain classes should have a dedicated dodge button / action rather than being an ability you unlock. It instantly makes the combat more dynamic in case they are going for more action-oriented gameplay rather than tactical. Bowie said, in Origins and in Dragon Age 2, we had the ability to change the attribute system, strength, dexterity, constitution, etc. But in Inquisition, this feature was removed and we automatically leveled up based on the class we picked. If we are likely to get a mixture of classes, rogue / mage, I hope this system could make a comeback so we can personally balance our points between two differing but equally powerful classes. Sean Johnson Jr. said, I would love to see more cultural, diverse, customizable armor classes. In Inquisition, the armor was decent, but I felt like it lacked a lot in places. For example, Mage Inquisitors had poop armor choices in my opinion, especially if you were playing as a human or Qunari, whereas warriors and rogues had better looking armor options. Also, I would love to see more armor like the Dalish and Qunari armors, maybe actually expanding and letting us use Ferelden, Riveni, Tevinter style armors. And the final community idea we have comes from Mick XXA. I would love to see that Solas's Dreadwolf form finally gets animated, and I absolutely agree to this. If we ever do see the Dreadwolf in a trailer, which I think is probably one of the most anticipated things I can expect to see from a trailer, just having Solas literally transform into the Dreadwolf, honestly it would be equally terrifying and amazing, and I would love to see that. But yes, I would love to see Solas in his Dreadwolf form, maybe in some combat sequence, I don't know, but just seeing him traversing through Alluvians as the Dreadwolf, we've got to have a moment where he is just the Dreadwolf. There was that one brand new piece of dialogue that was revealed in the Gamescom behind the scenes trailer where Solas literally said, they call me the Dreadwolf, what will they call you when this is over? And it honestly sounds like he is in his Dreadwolf form in that moment. So I do hope that we see that. As you can tell from my excitement of bringing that up, I live for any moment where we get to see Solas as the Dreadwolf. It's been talked about forever, it's been alluded to, and now it's happening in the books. So hopefully we can see it in the flesh when we get Dragon Age 4. Anyhow, that's a wrap on 60 of your unique, very broad ideas on the next Dragon Age. Comment down below if your ideas were spotlighted. The next community wishlist I have planned is going to be on what we want from the next hero, ranging from their identity, background, agency, character customization, you name it. I'll do my own very opinionated video on what I would personally like to see from the new hero first, but while I'm working on that, reply in the comments to this video on what you would like to see for the next hero. Just like this video, you may be spotlighted, and hopefully future community wishlist videos won't be as long as this one, but who knows, you guys have so many amazing ideas and I just want to feature all of them. In any event, I hope you enjoyed this new type of video from myself. I'm shaking things up going forward with more fun and subjective content like this, so I really do hope that you enjoy and you give me your own ideas down below. If you would like to join my very friendly Dragon Age Discord server or have access to early scripts, why not check out my channel memberships and get access to more content from myself. With that said, I really appreciate if you've watched this video to this point and you're already in the right place for the latest on the next Dragon Age. Until the next one, I've been Jackdaw and I should go. Whoa. Wahoo!